Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick, and today with me is...
Nicola Youern. I'm the Group Chief Executive of the Youth Trust.
Yes, and you've been doing this for quite a while now, haven't you?
I've been doing this for 27 years, Nick. 27 years of my life, and it has been a joy every single day of my life to be doing this.
Every single day? Sure.
Every single day of my life, no matter what I've been through, whether, as I said to you before, whether this is about pain and passion, whether it's about pain or it's about passion, it has been an absolute joy and a privilege to do this for 27 years. Really
I like the idea of the sort of potential memoir's name of pain and passion, because I think in anything that you put your soul and heart into, there's going to be a bit of pain, obviously, and you need the passion to come and bring you through. Why would you call, let's say, your biography that? What made you land on that name?
I think it's because I learned quite earlier on in life that what fuels me is injustice. That's what I'm passionate about. That's when I bring my head above the parapet. That's when I've got to do something. So I can't tolerate injustice, and that's where the passion comes from. There's quite a few stories that are involved in that. I was a whistleblower very early on in my career that I could tell you about, and that was a form of injustice that I spotted. So that's where my passion for culture and values and people come from, and treating people well. And of course, on this journey, there's been lots of pain. There's been lots of times when it's been hard. There's been some really rough times. But it's a pleasure, because even through that pain, you know that you're doing something that you need to do, because the end result is going to be worthwhile, because this isn't about profit. This is about people and people's lives. And therefore, every inch of pain is worth it to get to where you need to be.
Absolutely.
So that's why every single part of it has been a joy, an absolute joy to be here. And every day has been different. Every year has been different. It's been a challenge and yeah, a truly, truly amazing 27 years.
I suppose one has to frame that by going a little bit further back, though, to, I suppose, your upbringing, and, you know, asking where you grew up, what your childhood was like. I mean, obviously that must have done something to trigger the idea of being not a social justice warrior, but somebody who is beating on the door of justice and trying to make sure everyone has access to what everyone should have access to. So what was your upbringing like before you joined this? I mean, 27 years ago.
Wow.
What were you doing before that?
It's really interesting, actually, because I grew up in Wales, and I was an only child, and I was really shy and really quiet, and I didn't say boo to anybody. I really was a quiet only child. But I grew up in a community, a real community where everybody cared for each other. You didn't lock your doors. We didn't have fences between the gardens.
Oh, wow.
We were in and out of each other's houses. If ever I left Wales and went home, I didn't go home to my parents. I went home to a community, a family, a street that I went home to. We just knew everybody. Nobody moved. Everybody stayed together. It was an amazing, and I think that's where my real sense of community has come from, and what community well-being is. So that was at my roots. And then it does go back to the age of about 13, 14. And I'm sorry about that, but we are going back a long way.
No, that's absolutely
and
fine.
I was hoovering my mother's hallway. And it was a blue hallway with a blue carpet and pale blue walls. I never forget it, because I used to spend my nights picking the wallpaper off the wall, much to her upset. And this day I decided to hoover the hallway. And something happened to me. I don't know what it was. It came to me. I'm not going to say it's in any way spiritual, but something said to me, "You're going to be a nurse." And I thought, how disgusting. I do not want to be a nurse. At that age, librarian, lawyer, journalist was where I was going. Nurse? I don't think so. And I rejected this idea. But this voice kept saying to me, "You're going to be a nurse." So I went through my school years. I went to university. I ended up doing a degree in politics at university, which I found very interesting. And then it's a number of other stories before we get to, obviously, where I am today, which is I never ended up being a nurse, but I ended up working in a very, very, very similar profession. And it's a bit like it got me in the end.
It got me in the end.
It got me in the end. So would you like me to tell you my stories about how I actually ended up doing this work? Because that is quite a story in itself, and links back to the whole episode of whistleblowing, really.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned you did a degree in politics, which I find quite an important thing you more than likely need in this field. So obviously it sparked something in you. What happened? What after you left university, or maybe even before then?
No. I left university, and in those days, bearing in mind a long time ago, there was something called the milk round. I'm not sure if it still exists. And all the businesses, all the big businesses came to the university. They had stalls, they arranged interviews, and you kind of like went through the milk round and you got your interviews. And I'm not going to say who this company was because A, they no longer exist. But B, I went onto a management training program with a major national retailer, and that was the job I got. And I started working for them, and it was okay. And after going through an induction period, don't forget I was 21 years old, they put me in a store managing 16 people with no management training whatsoever. And their agenda as a retailer was profit, 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 sales, 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 sales. And they didn't care at what cost they drove people or how you treated your staff. And that was my first point of injustice. And I went from being this really quiet, shy human being to going to a management meeting, never forget it, a management meeting at Guildford, and stating to the managers that were there above us how appalling it was to work for the organisation. And I'd never opened my mouth before. You know, I used to go to university seminars and I'd sit there dreading it. I'd go sick rather than go to a seminar in case I had to speak. And it was a terrifying experience. And yet, because I was so incensed by what was going on, I said, and they ignored me. So I thought, well, in that case, I'm going to go to the university, to the milk round, and tell them that they should never allow this employer ever again to be involved in the milk round, and no one should ever work for them ever again as a graduate because they're such an appalling employer. So I did that, and you can imagine they weren't very impressed.
I'm sure they weren't.
No, so I got hauled in, and they told me how unimpressed they were with me and how I brought them into disrepute. But they didn't sack me. And I'm really surprised they didn't in a way, but they didn't sack me. They just told me off, told me to get on with it. And I was mortified. And I got on the train back home to Wales, the Intercity 125 in those days, back down to Wales, sobbing my heart out.
Oh, shame.
And my mother was a very wise woman. And I walked in and said, oh, this has been awful. Guess what's happened? And she said to me, well, my girl, it's a lesson for you to learn. You will never change anything by fighting from the outside. The only way you will ever change things is by forming brilliant relationships with people. And when they trust you, they'll change. So Monday morning, you go back to work, you put a smile on your face, you do a good job, and you get them to trust you. And then when they offer you promotion, you put two fingers up and you walk out. And so in my tail between my legs, I went back to work on Monday morning. I had to grin and bear it and put a smile on my face with these horrible managers above me, which is vile to everybody. And I did. And I worked there for a year. And in the June it was, I can't remember the year now, June 1982 maybe it was, they offered me promotion to a store on the south coast, not a million miles from where we're sitting actually. And I put two fingers up and walked out the door.
Oh, you didn't?
I did. I actually did it. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I sat there and thought, now what am I going to do? And the one thing I knew was at that very young, passionate kind of age where standards mattered, I didn't want to work for profit. To me, I'd done that. I hated the thought of driving people to line somebody else's pockets. I knew I needed to work in an environment that was socially aware, that cared about people. And I knew how to be a really bad manager because they taught me how to be an atrocious manager.
Well, you had exactly.
So I thought to myself, I'm going to go back to college and I'm going to learn how to do it properly because I've got loads of examples of how to do it badly. So I went to Bristol Poly, as it was in those days, and I did a management course. And it was the best thing I ever did, better than my degree, better than everything, because I learned about contracts and HR and finance, and I learned about management and everything about business. And I had to set up and run a business, and I had to go and get funding for it from a bank, and did all of that in a year. And I absolutely loved it. And did that for a year, went back home to live with my parents, which was torture. And at the end of that year, I was very lucky because I got married. And my darling husband, with whom I've been married for 40 years this July.
Wow,
40, I know, long service medal due.
That's almost as old as me.
This July, 40 years. we got married, and it was July 1983, and I moved down here. And then it was, well, now what am I going to do? And I just didn't know. I was
So you
lost.
moved from Wales to where, sorry?
From Wales down to Woodmancote, near Chichester. I moved. My husband works for the MOD. He's been there all his life, so I moved down here. And a good friend had come to stay, and he said to me, you know what you should do? He said, the government's got this programme now. They're going to close all the long-stay hospitals, and they're going to move people into the community. There's something new. You can tell how long ago this was. There's something new called community care. And it's going to change the way things are provided in this country. His dad was a dentist, so he kind of knew the stuff. He said, why don't you try and get a job doing that? He said, I think you'd really like it. So I thought, that sounds interesting. Okay. And then a job came up at the old Chichester Health Authority, covering maternity leave. And I literally had no clue what to do.
Not a position as a nurse. Then.
No, it wasn't a nurse. It wasn't in the planning department. But, you know, it was the right environment. So I applied for that and got it. And I covered maternity leave for 6 months. And it was glorious because I worked for a director of planning who was lovely, who treated people well. I worked actually really closely with the chairman of the health authority, which was in those days was called Dame Alison Monroe. And she was an amazing woman, absolutely amazing. I took tea with her in her lounge with the silver cups and saucers and everything. It really was an amazing time. And I worked there for 6 months and loved it. And after 6 months, of course, the person came back from maternity leave and they said to me, would you like to stay? Because we've got an opening at Graylingwell Hospital,
that's fortunate.
Which was the old psychiatric hospital. And we've got the first money ever by the government to move people out of long-stay hospitals. It's called community care. And it's going to be evaluated by the University of Kent. Would you like to go and do it? And I said, I'd love to. And they said, yes, but you've got to remember you're going to a hospital. They are a family there. It's very different to working here. And I went, no, I want to go. I'd love to go. They went, yeah, but it's very different. I went, no, I want to go. Oh boy, it was different. It was so different. My memories of that, the early days, are of all the walls being painted bright orange, which they told me was called psychiatric orange. It was horrible.
Oh my.
The cockroaches that ran across the floor, and used to crunch down the corridor in the morning, and people had been bitten in their beds at night. I mean, it was alive with cockroaches.
Is this Graylingwell, sorry?
It's at Graylingwell, yeah. I mean, feral cats everywhere, and being given a big bunch of keys, and you locked all.
Sort of matron.
Yeah, no, you locked all the doors behind you, and it was such a shock. And I was working on a programme to move 36 people out of hospital. And that's when my second button for injustice had been pressed, because I will recall a wonderful lady who will have passed away now, so I will use her name. Her name was Anne Catter. I can still see her. You know, I can still see a picture of her sat next to me at my desk. She used to come down in the morning and have a cup of coffee with me. She always admired my husband because I had a picture of him on my desk. And she used to say to me, you look like Michael Parkinson. She quite fancied Michael Parkinson. Anyway, Anne used to say to me every day, tomorrow they're going to come for me. The butler's going to come in the rolls and they're going to come and pick me up and take me home. And Anne was in her 60s. And she was in Graylingwell because she'd been born out of wedlock.
Oh, so there wasn't any sort of mental illness or anything?
No, she'd been born to a very rich family who had literally shut her away there when she was a baby. Oh, wow. And she was now in her 60s. And she was completely institutionalised. And there was nobody coming for Anne, and no one would ever come for Anne. And I couldn't tell Anne no one was coming for her. But what I could do is get her out of there. I had to get Anne out of there. And there were lots of Annes, lots of people who were there, who should never have been there, who just needed to move. And so we set about this programme of moving 36 people out. And oh boy, we did it badly. Oh gosh, when you think today about person-centred planning and all the things that we do. Oh yeah, none of that in those, because it was the start, wasn't it? It was like it was new. We were breaking new ground. It'd never been done before. So what did we do? We worked with lovely Stonham Housing Association. They went and bought a house. We didn't ask anybody where they wanted to live or who with. We just went and bought a house. And we decorated it and we furnished it. We didn't ask anybody what they wanted.
Hopefully not orange.
It wasn't orange. No, it wasn't orange. It was very lovely. And then we told people they were moving. Can you imagine the shock to them?
For people who've been there for decades.
After all of these years. Yeah.
Allowing them to think about the idea of moving into
And
something.
they moved into the middle of Bognor Regis. That's where we moved people to. Chichester Row, Bognor Regis was the first home I ever... Did you?
Yes.
Yeah, the first one I ever opened. And it was amazing to see the transformation. And Anne moved. Anne moved and she spent the rest of her life in her own home with her own bedroom, being able to go to the shops and do everything that was normal. And we did it badly because we didn't ask Anne about her room and we didn't design it around her, but it changed Anne's life for the better. And that was an amazing reason to get up in the morning.
So what mechanisms came into place to allow this transition from them moving from, Greningwell to their own accommodation? What was that, the government or local?
Government gave us £1 million. Can you imagine? $1 million is all it was all. Today it would be like
it's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, £1 million to move people out of hospital. And the University of Kent came down and evaluated what we did and the impact that it had. And it was just the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life to see people's lives change. And I'd been there about 4 years, and MenCap, the national charity, somebody in the hospital knew somebody from MenCap, and they called me and they said, of course, we're involved in this program to move people out of hospital now for people who have a learning disability. Would you be interested in coming to work for us? Because we know you've done it. And no, I love the health service. I wouldn't dream of living. No. And they went, it's more money. I went, no, do you know what? I'm not about money. I've never been about money. I love my job. No. And they went, company car. I went, oh, company car. Oh, now we're talking. Company car. Oh, I'll apply for this job. So I did. I applied for it. And I got it. And that was how I left Graylingwell. But just as a little sort of a side story, you and I are both members of that glorious ginger club, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
We are both beautiful redheads. And I'm obviously talking about you being beautiful, but we're both beautiful redheads. And I got a phone call from the woman from MenCap, and she said to me, I don't want you for the job. You're not my choice. But the other panel members really like you and they know your work, so I'm going to go with it, but you're not my choice. Oh. And I said, I'm really sorry. Why is that? What did I do wrong at interview? No, nothing to do with that. You've got ginger hair. And I said, yeah, I realised that. Well, clearly you have a very bad temper, and therefore that's a problem. And I said, actually, I don't have a bad temper. I'm quite calm. No, you do. And so this is the deal. I will offer you the job on condition you agree that when you lose your temper, I will drive to any motorway service station in the country that you name, and I will calm you down. And my memory went back to my mother saying to me, you've got to work with everybody. And, that's what you've got to do. That's the challenge in life, whoever they are. Oh, I've got many more stories by her. You've got to work with everybody. And so I thought, right, she's my challenge. She's going to be my boss, but I can do this. So I said, that's the deal. Knowing
what's this driving to the stations
because
about?
Obviously she covered a lot of the UK, and we did a lot of travelling in those days, and
I see.
And so I would go to a nearest motorway,
car over,
obviously brimming with rage, and she would calm me down. So I accepted the job, and I went to work for MenCap, and I was there for nearly 10 years. 10 years before I came here, and loved it, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't know if you know MenCap as a charity, but they have a lot of MenCap societies.
I don't know, yes.
They're affiliated bodies. So there was a Chichester MenCap society, and the guy who was the chair said, I can provide an office because my son's a lawyer. He'll give you a room in his legal practice in Emsworth. Well, Emsworth's on the coast, beautiful environment. I thought, this is wonderful. Got a company car, more money, beautiful. So I turn up on my first day, they show me the office, and there's a bucket that's catching the leak that's coming through the ceiling. And the toilet for everyone to use, they have to walk through my office to get to the toilet. So he goes, this is the office. There's a filing cabinet and a desk. So that's all you'll need then. Main cap will be down in 3 months to see how you're getting on. And that was my induction.
So they just popped you away.
They popped me away and they said to me, which is very funny, if you'd like a secretary, stick a card in the newsagent's window and you can employ somebody. I thought, I'm not sure what to do, but anyway. So I sat there at this desk in Emsworth thinking, what do I do now? Because I don't know anybody. I've not got any induction. I've got empty filing cabinet, empty desk drawers. And I thought, well, I know what to do. I know to move people out of hospital. I know I've got to get some houses. I know who to go and talk to. I'll just go and do it then.
And also empty the bucket every now and again.
I empty the bucket every now and then. They did actually repair the leak in the ceiling eventually. But do you know what? It was like somebody saying to me, there's a business idea, effectively, go and do it.
Wow. So
you're on your own.
Autonomy, then you just...
You're on your own, go and do it. No help and support. And I was, 28 then? Like, go and do it. And so it was either sink or swim. No choice. But I thought, I know everybody. So I called on all my contacts. And we opened Ellisdale Road in Bognor Regis about a year afterwards. And we opened a few more services in West Sussex. I was there for about 2 years.
All based in the Emsworth office?
I was based in Emsworth. We opened them all in Bognor Regis, but there's a couple of stories to be told about some of that. So in those days, this sort of work was very female dominated.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, so it was women tended to apply for the jobs, not men. So the said woman who offered me the job, I had employed a man to run Ellisdale Road.
Scandalous, even.
It was truly scandalous. She called me. I understand you've employed a male manager. I have, I said. Isn't it amazing? No, clearly he's a paedophile.
Oh, my.
And he's going to start a paedophile ring. You must sack him immediately.
You're kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Is this the direct boss that
This
made
is
the
my
comment
boss.
about the red hair?
This is the red-haired woman. I said, I am not doing that. I am not sacking him, and he's not a paedophile. And he's bound to be. He's bound to be. Sack him and put the phone down.
Oh, my goodness.
So, given the fact that I was by this time quite self-sufficient, I ignored her. I thought, well, I'm not doing that. I ignored her, and I continued to employ the staff team. And because I think we had 4 women living there and 4 men, I employed 3 men and 3 women.
Makes sense, yes.
Makes sense. Balanced team. I had another phone call. I understand you've employed more men. I said, well, the reason is we have a balanced, sort of female to male population living there. I want a balanced team, so I have employed. You do realise they're all part of this paedophile ring, don't you? I said, no, they're not.
Oh, my goodness.
I've just employed them. Right, sack all of them. I want them all gone, get all of them gone, and only employ women. Needless to say, I didn't do any of those things. The one thing she did teach me, she taught me she taught me about money, she taught me about finance, she taught me how to do a budget, and she taught me about how to raise money and income. So that was a good thing. But I did ignore her, and she didn't press the matter. But she did do something dreadful with a cat.
Oh, no.
So before I left, I remember sitting in this office in Emsworth, and I got a letter from a mother. And this letter was a letter of complaint about how I'd killed her daughter's cat.
You'd killed the daughter?
I'd killed the cat.
Sorry.
I'd killed the cat.
Oh, my goodness.
And how disgusting it was. And we had a house in Haywards Heath. And there was a young woman that lived there, and she was very independent, and she got herself a lovely kitten. And I'd been up there, and I'd seen her and the cat, and it was beautiful, and she was looking after it, and it was wonderful. Unfortunately, the person who was my boss had been to the house and seen the kitten, and the kitten was not quite trained and had gone to the toilet on the carpet.
Oh, no.
And so she decided the cat had to be put down. And so she entered the house whilst the person was out, and she took the kitten and had it put down. And then she wrote to the mother a letter from me, forging my signature, to say that I'd had the cat put down, which is why the mother complained to me that I'd killed the cat.
I'm actually in shock. I can't believe that.
Indeed. I did complain that had happened.
Yes,
but these are kind of some of the things that, going back to my mother saying to me, you have to work with everybody,
yes,
in all situations, I kind of dealt with and just carried on. And then what came up was to run Hampshire, because Hampshire was just more established, bigger. And so I left West Sussex and I ran Hampshire. And then I was really left alone for nearly 8 years.
Hopefully not too many accusations of hiring men. Because
no accusations, none of that. It was 8 glorious years, and we got to 280 staff, over 40 services. It was huge. We were opening them at rate of knots.
And was that focused exclusively on people with learning disabilities?
It was all, yes, it was all. And it was right across Hampshire, Southampton, Portsmouth, right across Hampshire, Basingstoke, everywhere. I had 2 assistant area managers working for me as well. It was wonderful. And I'll never forget, that taught me about the importance of relationships, really going back to my mum. Because people buy people, they don't buy services at the end of the day, they do buy people, they trust people. Trusting relationships are the most important things in the world. At the time, MenCap was thinking about doing a national restructure. And they wrote to the guy who was heading it all at Hampshire County Council, a really lovely guy called Mike Shackleton-Bailey, and said to him, why are there so many services in Hampshire? Why do you buy MenCap? And he wrote back and said, I don't buy MenCap. I buy Nicola Youern. At the time, it was Sally Hutfield and Malcolm Ashton. I'd buy them. And that was a real worry to MenCap, the fact that it was people, it was us. Mm-hmm. And so they did a national restructure. And they decided that 4 people should do my job instead of me on my own, which was rather nice of them. And so I left that and I did business development for the whole of the south of England, basically, and changed. And it was at a time when I had 2 young children, I was travelling a lot. And whilst I loved doing that, because I love setting up new things, that's what I'd always done, I knew that I just couldn't carry on doing that for the future with huge amounts of travelling with 2 tiny, tiny children. And that was how I came to be here. But that's another episode, is it?
Well, thank you very much, Nicki.
It's my pleasure.
That is a really fascinating deep dive into some really interesting stories that have led
There's more to come.
Yes, there is indeed. This is the first part of a series, and we will hopefully have the others up shortly. But yeah, thank you very much for this, and we'll listen to you soon.
I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.